This is Andy Purewal for ID Boxing. I'm joined by British heavyweight champion Fabio Wardley over Zoom. Fabio, how's life treating you?
Yeah, it's not bad, mate. It's not bad. It's nice. It's all going well.
I'm glad to hear it now. As I mentioned to you in my message earlier, obviously we never had a chance to catch up in the immediate aftermath of you becoming the new heavyweight champion of Britain. So let's just go back to that victory against Nathan Gorman, third round stoppage win. Yeah, take it away, Fabio. What did you make of the fight first and foremost?
It was good. I think it was the right fight at the right time, the right kind of fight as well. I think going into that fight, obviously by the bookie standards, I was the favourite, but I think a lot of proper boxing people looked at Nathan and really thought viewed him as the favourite, realistically. Um, and there was obviously a few question marks around me and things that I needed to tick off against a higher level, a higher caliber of opponent, which I think I did comfortably. Came out with a win and happy with it overall.
All who tuned in, they weren't left short of entertainment. It was obviously something which had the fans on the edge of their seats. Fabio, walk me through the fight from the first until the point of a stoppage. It I wouldn't say topsy turvy. Nathan did have his success, and there was one moment where he seemed to, don't know whether hurt's the right word, but maybe caught your attention a little bit. And as we see, your nose just recovering there from where it bust up in the fight as well. So just reflect on kind of the fight itself.
Yeah, the start was the first round was relatively even. You could have given it even away. Like neither side did too much damage to either. I think we were both a little half tentative, feeling each other out. I probably gave away the first minute or so of the second round, and then from then onwards is really when I really kicked into gear and switched things on. I think the commentary was a bit forced in terms of saying I was hurt and stuff. Like I wasn't. I was perfectly fine. It was what I. It was my feet were off balance. Basically, I was trying to hold and close the gap, and he'd stepped back, so it looked like I'd stumbled forward. Was the basis of it, but then I just nudged him off and went from there with it. Really.
So on that note and that shot which caused that scene that you've just described, it seemed like when that shot landed, it kind of made you feel like you had to put your foot on the gas a little bit more, and that's when things started to heat up between the pair of you, and you went on to drop Nathan a couple of times in that second round.
Yeah, I felt it was more a momentum thing. I didn't mind the first round being relatively even, but once he landed that shot, I could just feel a little extra bounce of confidence in him, a little bit more, and I didn't want him to run away with that, so I kind of had to stamp that fire out pretty quickly.
What did you feel was the most pleasing thing for you from that fight, Fabio?
There was a couple of things. One was the cut, two was getting caught, and three was obviously the stoppage and putting him down multiple times because there were all question marks over my head, and it was something that weirdly Nathan specifically mentioned in the build up is what's going to happen when he gets cut, what's going to happen when he gets hit, and I think I ticked all those boxes, answered all those questions.
Was you surprised when the fight was stopped in the third round? I mean, it was at that point you was heavily on top, and he was only really going one way. But as soon as the fight was ended, he turned to his corner, and from where I was sat, he was right in front of me. Just said like, "I'm fine." Like he could have carried on.
Don't get me wrong, he's a fighter. He'll always want to carry on. He'll want to go out with his shield. I think it was actually his own dad that threw in the towel. Um, so that's their job. They're there to look after him. I know it's all. I know we're in boxing, and I know we love them highlight reel knockouts and spectacular, and someone unconscious on the floor and stuff, and having to get gas and air after and all those things and all. And for the spectacle, yeah, great. But if it's unnecessary, it's unnecessary. If it doesn't need to be happen, if the fight's only going one way now, I was going to get to him again and again and again. It's better to save him for another day.
Was the fight more entertaining than you would have imagined beforehand?
Um, I don't know. Yeah, I didn't really visualize it going that toe to toe. I didn't. That wasn't part of the script. The script was to stick it on him in certain moments, but not do it and just stay there and go and go and go and go. But again, that's a little bit of just me and my nature taking over.
In Dillian's post-fight press conference, he was asked about your fight, and he said he gets more nervous watching yourself or watching Alan fight than he does his own. And he said that, in his words, maybe you have this little tendency to start a little slow before you pick up and get into the groove of things. Did you feel that was maybe the case with that fight? Again, you only went 3 rounds, but do you see where he was coming from?
A little bit, but not so much. I don't like. I've watched the fight back a few times, and I was relatively happy with how I started in the first round. Don't get me wrong, it wasn't perfect. I could have done better, but it wasn't slow. I wasn't just hiding away or tucking up or backing up the whole thing. There was lots of moments where I was in control, and I had my foot on the pedal. So it wasn't the slowest of slow starters. It wasn't the fastest either. But I think with Dill, it's a control thing. We all have the same thing. I get more nervous for his fights than I do for my own because I'm in control. I'm in the ring. I know what I can do. I can control the scenario. Whereas with me, he loves, cares, wants me to do well. And when he can't do nothing but leave me to my own devices and let me influence the outcome on my own, he and a lot of other fighters get a bit nervous about that.
I mean, a big talking point after the fight, and something that's always been raised with yourself, Fabio, is kind of the lack of experience you've had in the amateur fight. And there was no amateur scene. You was obviously, as mentioned, a white collar fighter coming into the pro ranks, and you've only had 15 fights now. Does it ever surprise you by how well and how quickly you've been able to progress to British level?
Yeah, I guess there's a level of surprise that goes with it, definitely. But I also feel like I've put the work in. I've done it. I may have not done it conventionally, but I've put the work in. I've gone to the gyms. I've trained. I've done the extra hours. I've brought the extra coaching. I've done the extra drills. I've done the extra revision of fighters of myself. I've done all the extra yards to kind of make up that space as quickly as possible. So although it's a bit like surprising or however, I also feel like it's well earned.
Now, in the fight, we also saw a certain Ben Davison working in your corner. Fabio, can you talk to me about that? Was that pre-planned? Is he a part of your team now, or was it just a one-off thing on the night?
No, Ben's a permanent fixture in my team. He has been a permanent fixture in the background for just under a year now. He was in the corner for my last fight as well, Chris Healy fight, and he was obviously in the corner for Saturday as well with for last a couple of weeks ago. Sorry, with Nathan. So he's a permanent fixture. He fits perfectly into the team. It's a dual thing that Rob is still my head coach, but Ben is there as a second and a voice, a planner, a director, a producer of just to put together the plan for me. But as a trio, as the three of us to execute, there's no separation. It's not like one day I'm with Ben, the next I'm with Rob. It's like when I work, we work as a trio. We're together. There's no particular times where we're separate. So when I'm drilling, when I'm training, all three of us are there together to make sure we're on the same page, to make sure we've got the same goal.
That was going to be my next question then, Fabio. Have you been spending more time at Ben's gym, I imagine, with Rob there, or is he somewhere else?
Yeah, no, I've been spending a lot more time at Ben's gym, but like I say, whenever I go, Rob's right there with me. We're learning as a trio.
So just moving forwards and looking to what could be next, you had another British heavyweight who was commentating ringside, I believe, for Five Live in a certain Mr. Frazer Clarke. Now, after your fight, he jumped up, he was congratulating you, clapping, and then he turned around, looked at the media, and he said he's coming for that title effectively next year. Would you think it's something we could see yourself and Frazer in 2023?
Yeah, possibly. Frazer, I know Frazer. I like Frazer. He's an ambitious guy. He's gonna want to fast track himself. He's gonna want to move quickly. He's gonna want to have kind of that Joe Joyce-esque career where he has to move along a bit quicker. So I don't take nothing negative from that. Like I have a good, prestigious, nice title. It's going to put a target on my back. People are going to want it. I don't take it personally. It's their own ambitions, and it's they want to push for it. So if that's the fight to be made, that's the fight to be made. It just depends on timing, and there's a lot of other factors, obviously, with different promotions and things like that. But I'm sure if it's the right fight and the one that people want, then it can be done.
Obviously, as you mentioned, a promotional front is something which you guys can't necessarily control, but just on a fighting perspective, do you have ambitions to try and win the title outright? Could he be in those plans in terms of defenses? Where do things sit in your own mind?
Um, I don't think I have the ambitions to win it outright. I will probably make one defense, pushing maybe two, but I think I don't want to sit too stagnant where there's a possibility for me to move forward, keep moving on, keep progressing, keep testing myself differently. Like with the European, like the Commonwealth, I think the European's vacant at the moment, so that's a possibility. So I may defend it once and then move on and move in a different direction and carry things on. I don't want to be tied in one position for too long. I just want to keep progressing forward with not just my career, but my experience as well.
So just to stick with the topic of Frazer Clarke, Fabio, what have you made of his progress in the pro ranks so far?
Yeah, good, good. It's difficult because when you come off an Olympic silver medal, so much is expected of you. Any foot wrong, any next to average performance, if you're not wiping every opponent out in a round or two, you get so much negativity, and I think it's unfair. It's a different game. The pro ranks are a different game, and although he's got a lot of experience, there's still bits for him to learn. He's still finding his feet in the game. He's still adapting to having Angel in his corner as a trainer and things like that. So they're all bits that you need to get comfortable with over time. But I think he's doing perfectly fine. There's nothing to grumble at. He's won all his fights. He's moving forward nicely.
He mentioned to me probably maybe 6 weeks ago, maybe less, just a little under that, but he did share the ring with you in sparring. Can you reflect on that experience for me, and from what can you take away from it? To how much confidence does it give that you could overcome him if you did cross paths in the pro ranks?
Yeah, it was a good spar. It was a good competitive spar. It's great to spar people of that higher level because you always test yourself, you put yourself in a good position. It was a great spar for the pair of us, but it was only one spar over 6 rounds. We didn't do loads or anything like that too much. So there's not an abundance to take from it. He had his good moments, I had my good moments. It is what it is.
Just away from yourself then, Fabio, and away from that, on the same night you became British champion, as we mentioned, Dillian Whyte fought to a close victory against Jermaine Franklin. Now, at the time of social media, there were a lot of calls from people who felt Jermaine had done enough to have his hand raised. I don't know if you've had a chance to watch it back or not, but yeah, have you seen the fight? And if so, what did you make of it?
Obviously, I watched it live, and I haven't had a chance to watch it back. I still think Dill clearly won. He was always in control of the fight. There was never a point where he was in really any danger or anything, or he looked like he was really losing the momentum of the fight. What I think it was that because Franklin was so unknown, there was a factor of he's just going to get steamrolled in 2 or 3 rounds. And then when he didn't, and he actually showed a bit of class and a bit of skill in some spaces, people gave him double, triple credit for those things where there should be more kind of just base level. Is my thoughts on kind of how people judged it and how they looked at it.
So with him coming away with that victory, Fabio, a lot of talk about the potential Anthony Joshua rematch taking place next year. Do you anticipate we see that one? And if so, how confident are you as Dillian's man that he can right the wrongs of what happened when they previously met?
I'm pretty sure that fight will happen next year. To be honest, I think even AJ himself made comments the other day saying he'd prefer that fight over the Tyson Fury fight or something along those lines. Like like I've always said it for years that no matter when, where, whatever, those two in the ring will draw a massive, massive crowd. it will draw a massive event. It will be a massive event for everyone to tune into because it's such a rivalry, because they've always been shoulder to shoulder throughout their careers, kind of thing. Although AJ, don't get me wrong, is the big poster boy and whatever else, but they've always been mentioned in close breath next to each other. That North-South rivalry as well. So there's a lot to it. And I do think Dill has the tools to defeat him. I do think he's progressed well. He's progressed a lot. He's had a lot of different experience, obviously, since that first initial loss to AJ. And AJ's gone the other way. He's had a few losses himself, and he's in a bit of an unsure place at the moment in terms of his coaching, with finding the right person and constantly changing, and potentially there's some self-doubt in there and things. So there's so many different factors that make it interesting that I think that when it does finally get announced or come around, that it will be a massive, massive fight.
The week after we saw you guys fight, we saw Tyson Fury stop Derek Chisora at Tottenham's ground. I was going to get your thoughts on that, and there was a lot of talk about whether or not the fight could have been and should have been stopped earlier on Derek's behalf.
Yeah, shoulda, woulda, coulda. It is what it is. It's Derek, isn't it? He will never let you stop a fight. He won't do it until he's unconscious on the floor. And yeah, okay, it could have been his corner's responsibility. It could have been the ref's responsibility a bit earlier and whatever else. But also, we've seen Chisora in late moments where he's not doing so well, losing fights or whatever, pull a massive shot out of the bag and then win the fight. So I think they gave him the extra benefit of the doubt in that sense. I don't think he would ever complain about being given some extra rounds in the ring to get that opportunity.
With that in mind, just on Derek, there's a lot of talk again, people suggesting whether or not he should retire. A lot of people would like to see him step away from the sport now. He's obviously earned a great deal of money in it, but there's also that concern that he might get matched up with somebody who is maybe a younger up and comer, i.e. somebody like yourself, and maybe it's just a fight which he doesn't need to take, one that could be dangerous and one which might not end so well for him. Would you be open to facing somebody like Derek Chisora? Do you still feel your fights away from that, or would you like to see him sail off into the sunset now?
I'd always like to see Derek sail up into the sunset. I love him. He's such a good person. He's a really nice guy. Someone I've spent a lot of time with over the years, and progressively as my career is built and stuff. He's someone I've got increasingly closer with, to be honest. He even made the effort of calling me, FaceTiming me the morning after my fight to congratulate me and just say, like, you've done well done. Like, it's good to see. So yeah, of course, I'd love to see him just go, you know what, I've had my run, I'm good, and go. But do I think he will? No. Knowing him, he loves it. He lives for it. It's his life fuel. It gets him going. So whether he will or not is a hard question. I don't personally think he will. I think at least he'll get another year out of himself. I know it does open the door to, like you say, a potentially bad, tragic, some sort of real bad ending to his story or whatever. But again, he's one of those just true warriors that would much rather just go out on his shield.
Is he somebody like a type of name you've thought about sharing a ring with at some point?
He's someone that's been suggested to me a number of times by different people, not by any of the team or anything like that. But I don't think I'm there yet. I think I'm about a year or so off someone like Derek, because the thing is with something like that, once you do it, I can't go backwards. I can't fight Derek and then go back to fighting kind of British level, European-ish level people. Like if you look at Derek's last four whatever fights, it's Usyk, it's Pulev, it's Tyson Fury. Like those people are world title holders, challengers, whatever. Like I can't then just drop back. So I have to bide my time a little bit better, a little bit smarter, be a little bit more tactful with the way I go through my fights and the fights I pick.
Just a final one, Fabio, before I let you go. After that fight on December 3rd. We saw Tyson Fury have somewhat of a three-way face-off with Alexander Usyk and Joe Joyce. Of course, I think the fight that we all want to see is Fury-Usyk next year for undisputed. If it goes ahead, Fabio, what happens in that fight?
That is the mystery. I'll be honest. That one's a puzzle. That one's a puzzle. Because if anyone can if anyone can stop Fury, and like, I don't mean stop, I mean beat him, it probably is Usyk. But can he do it? Is the size thing too much, or does he figure it a way with his movement to get to him, to get in, out, and make it so just awkward and uncomfortable? Or does Fury just get a hold of him in terms of size and mass and pin him and sap his energy? There's so many questions to it, and I really don't know. It's like, it's not even that I'm sat on the fence. I really couldn't piece it together.
And that's fair enough, Fabio. And we'll leave it there now because I know you're a busy man and you've got a couple of things to do this evening. So I'm going to leave you to shoot off and enjoy what you've got ahead. So thank you for speaking to me in ID Boxing. I'll hopefully catch you again soon.
No worries, mate. Catch you soon. Cheers, mate.